Today we're going to be looking at how to solve for a variable. In this first equation, we have the formula for a Fahrenheit temperature in terms of degrees Celsius is Fahrenheit equals 9/5 times Celsius plus 32. If we want to solve for C, if we want to get C by itself on one side of the equation, it helps for me if I circle what I'm actually solving for. We want to move the 9/5 to the other side of the equation and the positive 32 to the other side of the equation. So first we're going to move the 32 to the other side by subtracting 32 on both sides. And of course when you do that, 32 minus 32 on the right side cancels out. So now on the left side you have F minus 32. 9/5 is being multiplied times C, and the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And when you divide by a fraction, you would be dividing 9/5 by 9/5. Remember, when dividing by a fraction, you're actually multiplying by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply both sides times 5/9. And of course, when you do that on the right side, 9/5 times 5/9 is 1. And 1C, the 1 can become invisible. So now on the left side you have 5/9 times, and now we're going to put that F minus 32 in parentheses because we had that equation there. Now we could do the distributive property, but we can actually stop here at this point and just say that Celsius equals 5/5 times the difference of F minus 32. In another example, the formula for a person's typing speed is S, which stands for speed, equals W, which is the number of words typed, minus 10 times E. E is the number of errors, divided by M, the number of minutes. So we want to solve for W. That means we want to get W by itself. I like to circle that. Now, when you start out with a fraction or division bar there on the right side, the first thing we want to do is get rid of that denominator. We want to get rid of that M that's on the bottom. So that whole phrase is being divided by M, and the opposite of dividing is multiplying. So we're going to take our equation first and multiply both sides by M to get rid of that denominator. Now on the right side, the M divided by M is 1, so they cancel out. Now you have SM, S times M on the left side, equals W minus 10E. Now we want to move the 10E to the other side of the equation. It is being subtracted from W, so the opposite of subtracting is to add. So if we add and subtract, if we have a negative 10E and a positive 10E, that's going to cancel out there on the right side. And then on the left side, we have done it. We have W by itself, and you can write M times S or S times M. Typically, when you have a variable times a variable like this, we write them in alphabetical order, but it doesn't make it wrong if you write SM instead of MS, but you might as well get into the habit of putting them in alphabetical order, times 10E. So the words per minute equals the number of minutes times the speed plus 10 times the errors. In 2004, Ernst van Dyke won the wheelchair race of the Boston Marathon with a time of about 1 3/10 hours. The race was about 26 2/10 miles. What was his average speed? And we're going to use that formula, D equals RT. Distance equals rate times time. When we're looking for his speed, we're actually looking for the rate. But we can plug in numbers for the distance and the time. So the distance was 26 2/10 miles, and the time was 1 3/10 hours. So I plugged them in, and the only thing I did is I just went ahead and moved the variable to the end, because typically we write the coefficient. When we have a number and a variable, you write the number first. We call that a coefficient. So we have 1 3/10 times R on the right side, and now we just divide both sides by 1 3/10, and you can come up with the rate. This symbol right here means approximately. That means that this number is rounded. The circumference of a circle is found using the formula circumference equals diameter times pi, where C is the circumference, D is the diameter. So find the diameter if the circumference is 25 feet. So we're solving for diameter. So to get diameter by itself, we could divide both sides by pi. That means to figure out the diameter, all we have to do is take the circumference and divide by pi. So the circumference was 25 feet, and we're simply going to divide that by pi, which is 3.14159. You can use 3.14 unless your calculator has a pi button. If it has a pi button, you can just say 25 divided by 3, or the pi. And what that looks like is 7 9600 feet. Okay, so we're going to try to solve for a variable. When you read these, solve m minus n equals 5 for m. I'm looking for m, so I like to circle what I'm trying to get by itself. It just helps me visually. So to get m by itself, I see right here, I'm going to rewrite the problem, that I have to move the n to the other side. So I want to move this to the other side. It is a negative m, so we are going to do a positive n on both sides. And we are done. That was only a one-step equation. So m equals 5 plus n, or according to the commutative property, you could flip that and say m equals n plus 5. Either way. Okay, solve for v. I'd like to circle v. Again, we have this fraction bar, this division bar right here. We need to get rid of the denominator, so we need to get the v out of the denominator. M is being divided by v, and the opposite of division is multiplication. So we're going to be multiplying both sides by v. So if we multiply this side times v and this side times v, now we have v divided by v, which is 1, so that cancels out. And we're simply left with m equals d times v. That could be a capital D. Oh, I wasn't finished. Yeah, so sorry. I just thought I was solving for m. We haven't quite solved for v yet. We have v equals m. Now d is being multiplied by v, so we want to divide both sides by d. D divided by d is 1, canceled out, and you have your final answer. That's why I always circle what I'm looking for, and I didn't look up there to see what I had circled. But we got her done. This is very similar to the last one. Solve m divided by k equals x. Solving for k, so here's what we're solving for, which happens to be in the denominator. We do not want it in the denominator. So to get rid of that, we're going to multiply both sides times k. On the left side here, that gives us k divided by k, which is 1. So we say that that cancels out. Now we're left with m equals kx. I'm just used to writing them in alphabetical order. So x times k, I write as kx to put them in alphabetical order. But again, we're solving for k. I circled it. So to get k by itself, right now it's being multiplied by x. So we want to divide both sides by x. X divided by x is 1. So that cancels out. And you're left with m divided by x. K equals m divided by x. And I hope that was enough examples to help you with your assignment. I tell you what, let me pull up the paper just to show you here a couple things you'll be doing today. It says on the first section 1 through 6 here, it says solve the equation for the indicated variable. X equals 3y, and you're solving for y. So I like to circle that. I want to get the y by itself. So x equals 3y. Y is being multiplied times 3. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. On the right side, 3 divided by 3 is 1. So 1y, we can just write y. And we have solved for y. So y equals x divided by 3. And you're going to do the same thing there, 1 through 6. For 7 through 10, it says solve the formula for the indicated variable. So let's see here. Which one do we want to try? Let's look at number 9. Formula for the sum of the angles of a triangle. A plus B plus C equals 180 degrees, and we want to solve for C. So A plus B plus C equals 180 degrees. We want to get C by itself. C is on the left side, and it has a positive A and a positive B. So we're simply going to subtract A and subtract B on this side. So we're going to subtract A and subtract B on this side, and that would be solving for C. So C is equal to 180 minus A minus B. Good luck with solving for a variable.